I give away a lot of my child's stuff on Facebook Marketplace for free when they outgrow it, and the amount of parents that expect me to deliver it to them for free is astounding. Whenever my child outgrows something, I try to give it to another family that needs it. I usually clean the item up and post it with pickup only in a generalized area of where I live. Usually with everything I post, I get at least one person messaging me a sob story about how they don't have a car and they ask me to deliver it. No, I'm not going to deliver it because I'm already trying to do a nice thing by giving stuff away that I could easily sell. I've given away high chairs, bouncers, ride-on cars, and once an entire kid's outdoor play castle with a slide. I had one woman ask me to deliver it and then get mad at me because I refused to put the castle on hold for her because she wasn't going to ask around and see if she knew someone who could come get it. She demanded to know if I had any other kids' things I could give her for free because I wasted her time. Right now, I'm trying to give away overnight pull-up diapers. It's a half a pack sealed. It's free. It says what area I'm close to so people can decide if it's too far to drive before they message me. And I got one person asking me where I live. I gave them the general area and they said, "Oh no, it's too far. I don't have a car, but I really want this. Can you drop it off? I live in town that's 45 minutes away from me." I told them I wasn't planning on driving to that town anytime soon and asked for gas money, and they replied that they thought they were free. It would be cheaper for me to just go buy diapers, but I don't have a car, so I'm hoping you bring them to me. It's always with kids stuff I give away for free, and I'm tired of being treated like a jerk for not wanting to drive all over the place to deliver stuff for free. I'm trying to be nice, but I'm not a charity. Honestly, you gotta love the entitlement of these people, dude. Hey, this guy's giving away stuff for free. Let's demand that he brings it to us instead of doing the normal thing and going to get it. What? He should do that. I mean, if he's giving it away for free, he might as well offer a bunch of his time, gas money, and everything else that would be associated with driving it over here. I personally would love to drive 45 minutes out of my way to give away stuff that I was already trying to give away for free in the first place.
I'm getting quiet now, laying low when you reach zone, piping out, making out, stack the bread.
What's going on, guys? It's your boy Scrub here, back again with another video, and today we're going to be taking a look at the best of the subreddit Entitled Parents. You guys really enjoyed the Entitled Karens video I made, so I figured I'd do this because, in my opinion, it's a better subreddit. So hopefully y'all are going to enjoy. As you can tell, it's a little bit of a longer video, so if you wouldn't mind pressing the like button as, you know, a little trade-off, I'd appreciate it. And without further ado, let's get into some Entitled Parents. My neighbor has been yelling at his parents for hours. So I can't sleep because my next door neighbor is yelling at his parents. We call him Yeller. They moved into his house temporarily because a tree fell on their house, and Yeller is helping them pay for it, and we didn't hear about any trouble with them for 2 weeks they've been in the neighborhood. Apparently though, they are the type of people that thinks buying too many expensive things makes you snobbish. From what I can overhear, I know I shouldn't be listening in, but I can't sleep, they've apparently been selling off some of his stuff. Games, game consoles, watches, clothes. Apparently they were putting that money towards groceries, so it sounds like they are not keeping that money themselves. They did this yesterday and today. Oh wow, apparently the screaming guy went out to dinner with his girlfriend and was proposing to her, only to find out when he opened the ring box that the ring wasn't there. His parents took it and pawned it for gas money and cleaning supplies. I don't think his parents are staying there much longer. They even pulled out the "your stuff is our stuff" card and called him spoiled. I am hearing him yell at them to get out of his house. Honestly, in what reality is it okay to sell your host stuff? Kid or not, that is rotten. They are quieting down a bit. Hopefully I can sleep now. Man, dude, if anybody thought their parents kinda sucked, imagine being in a situation where you're about to propose, only to find out your parents went ahead and pawned the ring to pay for gas money. I understand your parents might be in a bad situation, but you don't go digging through somebody's stuff looking for the most expensive thing you can take to the pawn shop to get a little loan for. My goodness gracious, imagine if you found out somebody took your game console or your PC and pawned it without your permission, dude. I'm surprised he's not only kicking them out of the house, I'd be surprised if he didn't cut them out of his life after this too. I don't know, that's pretty out there. I need to give a little backstory first. My parents divorced when I was 10 and now I'm 20. And because my dad found out my mom was cheating on him when she told my brother and sister, who were 7 and 8 at the time, weren't his. When asked for her reason, she said that she found a man who was able to give her a high life, unlike my dad, a farmer trying his best to maintain a family while managing my grandfather's farm. When discussing custody over me in court, my mom said she wanted nothing to do with me and left my dad with full custody while she took my brother and sister with her and then married her side piece a month after everything was done. Of course, with the rise of social media, she only includes me in family photos to make herself look good, even though she tosses me to the side afterwards. I don't even have a relationship with my siblings because they look down on me for some classist and petty reasons. Now, with that out of the way, on with the show. It was about 7:30 in the morning. I was feeding cattle and having a jam session when my dad came out to the feedlot to tell me someone was here to see me. I asked him who it was, but I didn't need him to answer once I saw an angry look on his face and he throws a cigarette he failed to light. I hop off the tractor and go walking around the farmyard until I spot a brand new Porsche with my mother sitting in the driver's seat. To describe what she looks like, imagine someone did a shitty job doing James Charles and Jeffree Star's heaviest makeup routine at the same time, a Karen haircut with only the blondest of highlights, and a spray-on tan that would make Trump look pale. I often wonder if she'll ever do a face reveal just so the world could see the hunk of Swiss cheese under all that. I walk up to her car and very politely say hello to her before she wrinkles her nose and looks at me in disgust. Don't you have anything better to wear besides those filthy rags? And take that wad of chewing tobacco out of your mouth. Honestly, I'm embarrassed that you're my son looking like that. These are work clothes and I was working and I just put this chew in. It hasn't even kicked in yet. What do you want? She looked me up and down with disgust again before taking a deep breath before speaking. I need to ask you a favor. In fact, it's rather important. The only thought going through my head was, she's part of a cult and needs me to be a blood sacrifice at tonight's meeting. Well, what is it? See, your sister is going to be graduating this year, and I think it would only be fair you gave her the money your grandfather left you, since you obviously don't need it. I know what she's after now. My grandpa had put aside $25,000 for each grandchild once they turn 18 that they can use for college, buying a car, whatever. The only catch was you either needed to graduate high school or obtain a GED. Now, why she would be wanting this money, you ask? Well, I'll tell ya. She had asked my grandpa after the divorce that not only should her kids, my brother and my sister, still get the money, but also he needed to beef it up a few grand. My grandpa, out of spite, took the money originally meant for them and put it all in my name and told her his only actual grandkids would get the money. A few years later, when he passed away, my dad had added some of his inheritance into it, so when I graduated, I ended up with $93,000. I spent about $27,000 of it on a tractor and put the rest into savings where I add to it every paycheck. Why would I give her any of my money? She doesn't even speak to me anymore. Because it would only be fair since your grandpa denied her that money, and since she deserves it since she'll be attending college unlike you. Plus, as her big brother, you need to be responsible. That money was left to me to use on what I wish. Besides, if she wants it, she needs to ask me herself and telling you to come do it. She doesn't need to ask you. In fact, I shouldn't be asking you either. But since your grandfather was an asshole and you weren't caring enough to hand it over before, here I am. Aren't you guys paying for her college? Why do I need to give her some too? Well, you see, I'm paying for her tuition and housing, but she'll need spending money as she shouldn't be working a low-level job to have money for fun. Then give her some spending money too. But already be spending a lot since college is expensive. Won't you do this for her? No, I won't. And since when has something been too expensive for you? Just make your side piece work harder like you did last time when you wanted something big and flashy. How dare you speak to me like that? I'm your mother and you should be thankful I gave birth to you. Even just a little bit will help. An idea came to mind. I falsely apologized and said she was right, I should give her something. I told her I'm gonna run to my truck and grab the checkbook, and off I went. Once I was at my truck, I proceeded to dig through the cup holder for pennies. Every little bit helps, right? Once I gathered 20 or so pennies, I walked back and told her to put her hand out and drop the pennies in them with a smile. What's this? You said a little bit could help, didn't you? So, I thought you could have that. This isn't what I meant in mind. A few thousand is more what I had in mind. She then throws the pennies at me and then starts blaring the horn, screaming at the top of her lungs that I need to give her what she asked for. Honestly, where's a Pokeball when you need one? Because this one needs to be trained professionally on how to act. I'm just standing there watching her go on like this as she's demanding money, calling me everything under the sun when she goes quiet as I hear my dad yell out from somewhere, "Shut the you." At taking this moment, I look at her and said, "You never said thank you. And you will give your sister what she deserves. When you do a face reveal, I will." She then told me to go myself and sped off, and that was the end of that. That's all for this episode, folks. Until next time, remember to pick up your popcorn containers and leave the theater in an orderly fashion. I think my favorite character out of all that, to be honest, is the grandpa who just out of spite put all that money towards the one grandkid instead. What an absolute G. I'm also very impressed he didn't fork over any cash. That's what you really need to be able to do, man. Telling your family no is hard. I guess it's probably a lot easier when your mom's swearing at you, calling you every name under the sun. I will say though, bro, you gotta throw that savings into an investment of some sort. Inflation's eating that. I'm pregnant with my first child with my husband. We still haven't decided on a first name for our child, but I made the choice, which my husband wholeheartedly supports, to give her the middle name of a deceased friend of mine who I loved very much. My dear mother-in-law visited us over the weekend and not only trashes our home, but pays me no mind at all during her entire visit. All she does is fuss over how my husband is going to be a dad and she's going to be a grandma, ignoring the woman literally carrying the grandkid. The most interaction she has had with me so far is barking orders at me on Saturday night during dinner. However, after she insulted my cooking, she turned to my husband and said, "So dear, what name are you going to give the baby?" I piped up, since I'm fed up with her acting like my husband is the one carrying the grandchild. "Well, Miss X, we haven't decided on a first name yet, but her middle name will be the aforementioned friend's name in honor of one of my best friends who died a few years back. If you have any suggestions for her first name, we'd be more than happy to hear them." This woman turns and gives me the dirtiest look I've ever received in my life, and she proceeds with a long, stupid rant. First of all, why was I not informed that you had already made a choice regarding my granddaughter's name? Did you even consult my husband when you decided to give the baby that name? Look, I'm sure your friend was a great person, but I don't approve of that name at all. I'm sorry, the person may have been nice, but the name isn't nice. Instead of honoring the girl by naming my grandbaby after her, why don't you honor her by raising the child to be a good, religious, pious lady? Pious lady. Oh wait, you can't, I suppose. You're a lazy, good-for-nothing, useless junkie. You're the opposite of what a mom should be. I'm ashamed that you're carrying my grandchild, slut. At this point, I left and cried up in my room. From what I heard, my husband yelled at her for what she said and kicked her out, and as of now, I've blocked her on everything, and my husband and I withdrew ourselves from Christmas dinner with his side of the family. The whole ordeal also reminded me of the trauma of losing the friend I mentioned, and I really hope my daughter doesn't inherit anything from that awful woman. What are you gonna give my grandbaby a middle name of somebody that you care about that died? What are you, an idiot? Psh, no. My grandbaby can't have a middle name like that. You're causing this much of a fuss over a middle name, bro? Call me crazy, but like the amount of times my middle name has literally ever mattered is zero. It's a good thing for the mom to honor her friend, you know, it means something to her, it'll mean something to the daughter. But if you don't like your grandbaby's middle name, you don't have to go around telling everybody about the middle name. I just feel like it's really not that complicated, easy to avoid issue. This happened the summer of when I was 14, so around 2004. This entitled mama bear was griping about wanting to get out of the city and do something fun. She wanted to go to the beach, and my dad finally decided it was time to take a leave from work for a week and go there. He wanted to drive, but, you know, the entitled mom wanted to fly, so she went ahead and bought plane tickets for the trip. When my dad finally got back to look at the tickets, he noticed that there wasn't one for me. The entitled moms played it off and said that she must have lost it. My dad said he'd make a call to the airline, and if they couldn't find my ticket, then there'd be an issue. That's when she started doing the thing that Karens do, where they just want you to blindly take their word on something fishy. So my dad grilled her until she admitted to only buying 3 tickets, and she used his credit card to buy them. He was livid, and she started making excuses that I wasn't a little kid anymore and that I didn't need to go. My dad, having enough of her crap, called the airline and canceled the trip, and then told my stepmom that if she wanted to go so bad, the next time invite me or pay for the trip herself. She cried and called my dad financially controlling, but he turned that on her and said that she couldn't have a family vacation without me if she was using his money to pay for it. Then she asked what was her plan when it was time to go. Was she just gonna have to leave me at home last minute or pretend to have lost the ticket at the airport? My stepmom didn't have an answer, so she just walked away and did her usual of getting drunk on the patio. Instead of flying to the beach, my dad packed us all up in his car and we drove south to the nearest beach, and I ended up having a great time, and my sister did too. But my mom spent half the trip looking like she was sucking on a lemon in her mouth because she didn't get away. But that was fine with me because she avoided even speaking to me for almost the entire time. Even if you really hated your stepkid, I feel like it should be like not rocket science that booking an entire vacation for the entire family without the stepkid was going to cause a problem. Could you really not put up with a kid for like one weekend if you're a grown-up in that situation, dude? Seriously, you're gonna take him to the airport and just pretend that you lost the ticket instead? Get over yourself, bro. The next thing that this dad's gotta gotta do is slap some papers on her desk. Neighbor kept parking on my property, so I had him towed. Hello everyone. First thing is that this issue happened just this week, and I'm so mad that I'm shaking as I type this. I'm gonna apologize up front if I ramble, but I honestly can't believe this happened. I've tried to condense this week's activity into a single story, but sadly it turned out super long. But the backstory is I'm a single mother of 2 teenage boys, and I live in a nice quiet neighborhood at the end of a cul-de-sac. Every house on this street has a garage, and I'm the only one that has a single car and parks in my garage. Almost every house on this street is a family home with 3 cars, but most have more. Some will park in their driveway, some will park on the street, and it's never ever been a problem since everyone is considerate in how they park and no one has had an issue with getting in and out of the street. In addition, I tend to keep to myself. I'm not antisocial, and I wave and say hello to my neighbors when I come and go from my home, but usually when I get home, I stay home. So I say all of this to give you an idea that I'm a homebody, and my neighbors pretty much know that when I get home, I stay home. About 6 months ago, the house to my right was sold to a larger family that consisted of a dad, mom, and 3 teenagers. The day they started moving in, I made a point to go over to the edge of the property and wave and greet them in order to welcome them to the neighborhood. They were friendly, and I was happy to have nice people move in next door. Also, you need to know that his family used their garage for storage and parked their 4 cars in the driveway. I didn't know it at the time, but their youngest son was months away from his 16th birthday, and now that you have more of that information out of the story itself. Last Tuesday, around 6 p.m., I received a knock on the door, and it was from my neighbor, and this is the following conversation. Good evening, how are you? I'm talking through the screen door. We're okay. I'm sorry I can't open the door, but my youngest came home from school with a sore throat. I'm not sure what's going on. How can I help you? Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. I hope it's not anything serious. We're okay. My son turned 16 a few weeks ago, and I'm sure you saw the new truck we bought him. I sure did. It's such a pretty truck and big. Does he like it? Yes, he does. It's what he wanted, so we got it for him. It's very big, and that's what I wanted to talk to you about. Let's take a brief pause here and understand when I say the truck is very big. It's very big. It's an F-350. I personally think that's too much of a vehicle for a kid learning to drive, but it's not my money, so to each their own. I don't understand. We've been getting complaints from some of the other neighbors that his truck is so big that they can't get around it when they're driving, and we're afraid it might get sideswiped if he continues to park in the street. Yeah, I've had some intense moments trying to get around it myself, but I'm sure he'll get better at parking it as he gets more experience. I'm not sure what this has to do with me. I haven't complained. Oh, I know you haven't complained, which is why I was going to ask if he could use your driveway to park since you don't use it. At this point, I was very stunned. I do use my driveway when I leave and come home. I can't get to my garage without using my driveway. And besides, I have issues with depth perception, and your son's truck is so big it's going to take up most of my driveway, and I don't want to be responsible for any damage that might happen to it on my property. Well, we will make sure that he parks so it allows you to come and go without any issues. That's actually not possible. The only way he can park to allow me to get around him is if he parks halfway on my lawn, and that wouldn't work because then he's going to damage the lawn. If you're concerned about his truck getting damaged, then why don't you let him park in your driveway and have one of the smaller cars park in the street? We already discussed that. We'd have to park 2 cars in the street in order for him to use the driveway. It would be very easy for him to park in your driveway, and I can assure you that it would not be an inconvenience to you. You don't even use your driveway. I'm sorry, but the answer is no. I'm not going to be responsible for a vehicle on my property, and I need to be able to come and go without worrying about somebody else's stuff. My neighbor, who's very upset at this point, "You're not being very neighborly. I thought you were a nice woman. You don't use your driveway, and this would benefit the whole neighborhood." I'm starting to lose my temper at this point. Listen, I told you I do use my driveway every time I pull into my garage and every time I leave. I'm sorry you don't have enough parking for all your vehicles. I'm sure it's frustrating, but it's not my problem that you decided to buy a vehicle that doesn't fit on your property. Now, while I also find it irritating to try to navigate the road with that truck in the way, it is public parking, so I have to deal with that. I will not have anyone else's vehicle on my property. Now, if you don't mind, I have a sick kid and I need to get back to him. Have a good day. And with that, I closed the door and looked out the people and saw him give the bird before he turned to leave. I just shook my head and had to take a moment to understand if I actually just had that conversation. Then I loaded my son up in the car and left to take him to a minor emergency just to get him checked out. All this test came back negative, and I was told he probably had a run-of-the-mill virus and to keep him at home and do self-care. and was told to bring him in if he got worse, but not to worry. I went to work the next day and told my coworkers the story of my neighbor's request, and they were shocked. I had one coworker suggest that I send an email to the HOA and explain what happened just to get it on record because it was such a weird request. I took her advice and typed up an email that day when I was at lunch and sent it. For those that want to know, it was just an FYI email, not a complaint email, and it basically stated that my neighbor made a request to park on my property, and when I declined, he got mad and I wanted it on record just in case anything ever happens. So Friday comes and my youngest son has been home sick since Tuesday afternoon, and when I got home Friday evening, I checked him and he began to run a fever and was complaining of several other things. I'd been doing self-care with him since Tuesday and he didn't appear to be getting any better, and at around 7 p.m. I decided to take him back to the minor emergency and loaded him up in the car. I opened my garage door and was absolutely shocked to see a very big F-350 sitting in my driveway blocking me in, and I can't describe to you how angry I was to see that vehicle there. Now, before anyone starts asking me how I didn't know it was in my driveway, it's because my street is very busy and cars are coming and going all the time, and unless someone knocks on my door, I don't bother watching every vehicle driving up and down the street. The only window that can see my driveway are the ones in my kitchen, and I keep those drawn and don't look out. So I get out of my car and stomp over to my neighbor's house and bang on their door. This person answers out of the door with this conversation. "Can I help you? You're interrupting our dinner. Your son parked in my driveway after I told your husband he couldn't, and I need to take my son to the emergency that your truck is blocking me in." It is at this time he walks up behind the woman and proceeds to talk. "He isn't blocking you in. You can get around him." "No, I can't, and you need to move the truck or I'm going to call the police and tow it. I need to get my son in to see a doctor." At that point, the dad turned and called for his son and then turned back to me. "He's not blocking you, but I will have him move it. It doesn't matter whether or not you believe he's blocking me in or not. He's not allowed to park there in my driveway in the first place. No one's allowed to park there, and if I find an unauthorized vehicle in my driveway again, I'm not gonna bother knocking on your door. I'm gonna have it towed." It was at this time I saw the son arrive at the door with his keys in his hand, and I turned to leave and head to my car and wait for him to move it when I heard him call me the famous B word every woman has heard once in her life, and I ignored him and headed to my car and watched as he got in, and after some effort was finally able to back out of my driveway and parked his truck in the street a little way down the road. I was able to leave and take my son to the minor emergency where, as we waited for several hours to be seen, I shot off another email to the HOA about what had happened. I want to advise that the HOA had already responded the day before about what they received in my email and made a note of it and advised my property was my own and I could give or deny access to it as I wish. It was this email string that I responded to while waiting for my kid to be seen, and again, all tests administered to my son came back negative, and I was told it was a run-of-the-mill virus and he's gonna be fine. The virus just had to run its course, and I took him home and called it a day. Saturday evening, my oldest started complaining of a sore throat, and I was starting to feel poorly myself. My youngest appeared to be getting better, so I figured that whatever he had, we were getting, and so we stayed in all weekend. Sunday evening at about 5:30, my oldest son spiked a fever, and while it came down a little, it didn't come down enough, so I loaded him in the car and off to the emergency we went. The only one I could find that was open on Saturday was on the other side of town, so I drove 20 minutes just to get there, and we ended up waiting for 3 hours just to get in the door, and then another 45 minutes until we saw the doctor. After a few more hours and all of his tests coming back negative, the doctor did state she could hear some wheezing in his lungs, so she prescribed an inhaler for him to help him get back, but basically told me the same thing, that he has a run-of-the-mill virus and has to let it run its course. I even had to drive further to the only 24-hour pharmacy to pick up the inhaler, and we didn't get back to the house until almost midnight. Let me set the scene for you. My son is half asleep in the passenger seat and complaining that he just wants to go home. I'm exhausted and feeling drained and having coughing fits myself, and I just want to go to bed, and I round the corner and I see the truck sitting in my driveway. I couldn't even pull in because he's blocking it, and I also noticed that he was parked partially on my lawn. I was so mad I could hardly see straight. I googled and found a 24-hour tow truck service and explained I had an unauthorized vehicle on my property that needed towing. The woman said it would be about 30 minutes before they could get a truck there, and I said that's fine. In the meantime, I walked my kid to the house, put him to bed, and then went outside and took a picture from the street to show how much of the driveway he was taking up, and he was also parked on my lawn. I couldn't understand why they would park in my driveway. Again, after I thought I had told them no, and the only thing I could come up with is that since there had been no activity at my house for hours, they assumed I was in for the night and wouldn't notice it in my driveway. This is pure speculation, but it's normal for me to be in for the night after 6 p.m. I don't know if they missed me leaving or just saw me leave and figured I was home, but it really doesn't matter because I told them I couldn't park there, and it's about 12:30 when the tow truck arrived, and I half expected my neighbor to come running out there, but there was no activity from them, and the driver left with the truck without incident. I went in, shot off another email to my HOA along with the pictures and an explanation I towed the vehicle and went to bed. At 6 a.m. I woke up to someone banging loudly and rapidly on my door. I didn't even have to look. I knew who it was. I grabbed my phone, hit the video record button, and before opening the door, looked through the peephole and saw the dad and the son at my door. I opened it, and this is the following conversation. "Where's the truck?" As calmly as I could state while I was coughing. "It was towed. You can call them and make arrangements to get it back." "You didn't have the right to tow it. You're gonna pay to get it back." I actually had every right to tow an unauthorized vehicle on my property. I told you not to park on my property and you did it anyways. It blocked me from getting in my driveway last night and I told you I was going to have it towed after the last time you parked without my permission and I won't be paying anything to get it back. "You stole my truck, I'm calling the police and I'm going to sue you." Me, having enough of this. "Go ahead. In the meantime, I'm sick and I'm going to go ahead and go back to bed." I closed the door and stood there for a moment. I looked out the peephole and they were still there. He started banging and ringing my doorbell non-stop. He knocked and rang my doorbell for another 4 minutes before he gave up. I'm still recording all this and didn't turn off the video until he was gone. I turned and saw my kids standing there. The noise had gotten them up and I just advised them that if they were feeling ill to go back to bed because that's where I was going. Now I will say, honestly, I didn't think he would call the police, but he did. It was about a half hour. I really wasn't looking at the clock and I heard the doorbell ring. I got up and looked through the peephole and a police officer was there and I opened the door and just had this conversation. "Morning, ma'am. Sorry to bother you, but we have a report from your neighbor. He's stating that you stole his son's truck by having it towed from the street. We need to talk to you about the issue." "Good morning, officer. My neighbor is only telling you half the story. I had his towed truck from my driveway when I returned home from a minor emergency, and I couldn't get into my driveway. I already told him twice that him and his family couldn't park on my property, and this issue started last week, and I have emails to my HOA, pictures of his truck parked in my driveway this morning, and a video of my neighbor's visit this morning where he called me names and told me he was going to sue me and call the police. I can show you if you want." "Yeah, so you're saying the truck in question was on your property without your permission and that's why you had it towed?" "Yes, last Tuesday he asked me if I would allow his son to park in the driveway. I told him no, he got mad at me and flipped me off, and then Friday evening when I was leaving, I discovered he was in my driveway and I couldn't leave my garage, so I went over there and demanded they move the vehicle and told them at that time that I would have the truck towed if they parked on my property again, and I came home late this morning and the truck was in my driveway, so I had it towed. I just want to confirm, you are saying that it wasn't parked on the street but in your driveway, and you have proof of this?" "Yes, sir. If you'll just give me a minute, I'll print off the emails I sent to the HOA, and that documents the issue, and I'll show you the picture and the video as well." With this, the police officer said he was going to wait for me to print everything off, and once I got the emails printed, I returned to the door, opened my Photos app to the officer, and showed the truck in my driveway time-stamped, handed my phone and printed emails to him, and after looking at the photo where you could see my house in the background and the truck blocking the entrance and that it's partway on the lawn, the officer then read the printout. He handed my phone back to me and asked me to open the video that I referenced while he went over to the lawn to look. I watched him look at the area, take a few photos, and I could see my neighbor and his whole family standing in the driveway watching me and the cop. He returned and I handed him back my phone with the video and he watched it, and after finished watching the video, he had the following exchange. "I'm gonna need a copy of that photo and video for my file. If I provide you with an email, would you send it to me?" "Yes, sir, no problem. I have enough information from my files to determine that the vehicle was not on public property and was on your property. I've made a note that you did not give permission for the vehicle to be parked on the property, and based on the emails you gave me with the dates and times, it appears you did in fact advise your neighbor not to park here. Would you like to file a trespassing report for the incident?" "Oh, absolutely. I can see you're not feeling well. You can either file with me now or you can go online." Got out his business card, wrote out the instructions, and handed it to him. "Here's my business card that you can use to send the photo and video, and the case number's on the back as well. Do you want to file now?" "Honestly, I'm exhausted and would prefer to file online later." "Okay, reference this case number when you email your evidence and file the online report. Also, reference my name in the report, and one more thing. I saw in the video he stated he was going to sue you for having the truck towed. He can sue you if he wants, and if I advise that you keep all the evidence you provided with me today, along with the case number I gave you. Give it a few days and you can request a copy of the report, and you will want to keep that as well. If you decide to file an online report, you're going to need to keep a copy of that as well, and I'm going to go talk to him right now. Sorry to have bothered you." "Thank you, officer. I'm sorry you had to come deal with this." I just don't understand why you would call the cops, dude. Did you really think your neighbor hadn't taken a picture at any point while you were breaking, like, the one rule she told you not to break by parking on her lawn? I'm gonna call the cops and get her arrested for towing my truck that she legally towed. She was probably too dumb to take pictures. It's not like everybody has a smartphone in their pocket that they can take pictures with easily. Honestly, man, like, I don't know. Living next to a neighbor like this truly is horrible, dude. This is a next level Karen experience. No, thank you. Don't park your F-350 in my lawn. Don't do that. I just love the audacity of them calling the cops on her for having a reasonable complaint. He's a male Karen, a Darren. That's what we're calling him. Anyways, guys, I think that's going to do it for the video. Hopefully you enjoyed. If you did, I would really appreciate you taking a second to press the like button. Let me know in the comment section down below what you thought. And, of course, subscribe if you're new. Turn on notifications. If you don't know what to comment, go ahead and comment the word parent down below. It just helps the video do better. I'd appreciate it since, you know, Entitled Parents was the subreddit today. Other than that, I'm going to go ahead and put a link to the intro song down below, along with a link to my podcast, The Scuffed Cast. Or, of course, you could use code Scrubby at the G Fuel checkout to get a discount on G Fuel. I'd really appreciate it. And the last link that you're going to find down there in the description is a link to the merch store. So if you want to head on over and get yourself a t-shirt, I wouldn't mind. Not that I'm biased, but it's the coolest merch to ever exist for sure. And, yeah, on that note, guys, that's going to do it. Don't get anyone pregnant. If you do, make sure they're hot, and hopefully I'll see you guys next time. I'm out. Peace.